My guest today is Alexa Achille, the founder of the Collabo in West Palm Beach, Florida, which empowers homeschooling families by providing enriching learning experiences for students, strategic resources for parents, and expert guidance on educational and post-secondary opportunities as a choice navigator. Alexa Achille, welcome to the Liberated Podcast.
Hey now, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. I'd love to start, if we could, Alexa, with kind of the earlier part of your career. You spent several years as a special education teacher in the New York City public schools. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about what brought you to the New York City public schools, what your experience was like there, and then how did that sort of inform your path that you're now on in terms of supporting families choosing alternatives to conventional schooling?
Yes. Oh boy.
Yeah.
What a story and what a journey. I initially moved to New York City right after high school because I wanted to, from West Palm. So I moved from West Palm Beach right up to New York City after high school because I wanted to live the big city girl life. I wanted to get out and try different things. And I actually went to college for public relations and journalism. So I did not go to New York to become a teacher. In fact, I got a master's degree in international communications because I thought I was going to be doing more government and politics, using communication for change in that way. But I'll never forget, I had just got my first job out of that grad program. I was working in sales for an ad tech company, and it just wasn't vibing with me. I was like, this isn't, giving me what I want. It's not inspiring me at all. And so I saw an advertisement on the train for New York City Teaching Fellows. And I was like, I could be a teacher. I host workshops. I know how to be in front of people and talk and lead discussions. That's
Wow.
not going to be anything. So it was an advertisement on the train for New York City Teaching Fellows that put me on this path to becoming a teacher.
And so what was that path after you saw that sign and great marketing by the New York City Public Schools? What happened next for you?
So I just, thankfully, I had some other friends who had already entered the program, and they're like, "Oh, Alexa, you'll be great at this." And I honestly thought it was going to be some easy path, easy route to get to money. And really, teaching has been one of the most difficult things I've ever done. So after you get accepted into, because it's an alternative program to education. You get accepted into the program, you have to go through a summer intensive, and you're also in grad school at the same time. And then you get hired to teach at a school while you're in grad school, um, earning your master's in whatever area that was most needed. And for me, it was special education. So I was getting my master's in special education and teaching at the Facing History School out in New York City, starting in like 2015, because I graduated in 2019. So maybe starting in 2017. And I graduated in 2019 with my master's in education. So yeah.
Wow. Okay, so what were those years like as a public school teacher? What was that experience like? Was it what you expected or what?
Honestly, it was some of my best professional years. I've actually finally felt like I was using all of my skill sets, being a classroom teacher. I was being challenged appropriately. I'm not saying that it was all fairy tales and rainbows. I was still a high school teacher at the end of the day. But it was a great space for me to engage creatively, learn the importance of data, especially as a special educator. I had the opportunity to be on leadership teams. Like I was making changes. I was doing everything that I had imagined I wanted to do in the world. I was able to do in the classroom at the school. So it was a wonderful experience.
Amazing. I've often said on this podcast that it's really interesting. The founders that I talked to, most of them are former public school teachers, and many of them are former special education teachers in the public schools, maybe already primed for thinking about individualizing education. And in some cases, they say how they felt sort of frustrated that they couldn't individualize enough, even within the system with an individualized education plan and so on. You're nodding your head. Yes. Tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are of that, and then I guess how did you kind of come to um, understand the whole world of unconventional education?
So, I mean, being a special educator, we are tasked with a lot. And we have to wear a lot of hats. And some of those hats are really important because it can get legal, very quickly if you're
Mm,
not um, properly updating the IEPs or properly advocating for the students. Like, there's a lot weighing on the role of a special educator. Um, However, it gets really tough working in a system that doesn't necessarily support you in your role.
mm,
I had a caseload of maybe 25 students. Half of them I didn't necessarily teach. So how am I really gonna, write a proper education plan for somebody that I never have one-to-one interactions with? To make sure that the data is lining up or they're getting the supports and services that they need. So that is one. And then on top of that, having to teach 5 classes, co-teach 5 classes, plan for those classes, and then individualize or create scaffolds and accommodations for the students with IEPs in my class who may not be on my caseload. So not only do I have my 25, but now I have my over 75 kids in classes that I am now tasked with supporting. So I will say that it is very difficult to want to individualize when you kind of have to generalize enough so that all the kids are receiving their accommodations and then try to go in and individualize it even more. But if I know that most of my kids are visual learners or most of my kids, need sense and stems, most of my kids need some sort of essay scaffold, it's not really like honing into Johnny needs X. It's Johnny, Sarah, Leslie, and Ron who all need this. So that's what you're getting. So we can just move on the day. So, yeah, and being in the system and then also just being who I am, I'm just like, I always kind of am like an agitator. I'm always kind of a resistor, always kind of the person who's like, well, hold on just a second, so it just opened my eyes a lot more to the inequities of the school system and
mm.
period. Yeah.
So then what was your path like from there, and how did you end up in this world of innovative, unconventional learning models?
Yes, so the Collabo was actually founded in 2020 to be a space for educators to lean on and learn from each other because, again, I found a gap. Like, we were teaching remote for the first time. A lot of us didn't have any spaces. We were lonely. So it really was a space for teachers. But as my life, as I had mentioned previously, is not linear, I'm very much on a weaving path to my purpose. I left New York City in 2021 during COVID. I moved to Memphis, Tennessee, trying to mull and think about what the collabo could be. And then I realized it was time to come back home to Florida. And so as I was coming home to Florida, I was like, oh, wait, I see this lane of homeschooling. I see this lane of micro schooling. And that just triggered my interest because if I can create something that can support kids in a way that no system is telling me what to do, no, structure is saying you can't do this when I know it's the right thing, I was like, oh yeah, there's a lane for me there. And so that's how this morphed into, you know, being a choice navigator, creating enrichment programs, supporting parents through this using my knowledge of being a teacher because it all is about individualized education at the homeschool level. So that's how that happened.
That's great. But so how did you said, you saw homeschooling, you saw microschooling. how did you see it? I guess what were the circles you were running in that opened your eyes to what was happening not only in South Florida, but all across the country at that time and continuing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I follow a lot of people on Instagram. So, as I was trying to just build my business, I was just following edupreneurs, educators turned entrepreneurs and seeing where they went. And then I just stumbled upon people like Tatiana Alexander from Soul Learning Center was like one of my first introductions. I actually just reached out to her on direct message, like, tell me a little bit more about what this is. And we got on Zoom and now we have Facebook live chats talking about the micro school world. So it was really just like me doing a lot of research and connecting with people. Iman from Kind Academy, she popped up. I was like, Vela, when I started
Yes.
like, oh, maybe I want to do a micro school. What does it look like to do that? And so through those research methods and Kind Academy, Vela, then reaching out to Tatiana, it all just kind of like blossomed from there. So that's how I got
That's so great. Yeah, it
involved.
it it seems, sort of relatively easy once you find someone in this space to kind of go down all kinds of rabbit holes and find more and more people and resources and then get hooked on kind of a new way of thinking about teaching and learning. And you mentioned Iman Aline, the founder of Kind Academy, who also runs the Launch Your Kind Network, startup
Hmm.
accelerator program for microschool founders and innovative educators. You and I met in person at the Launch Your Kind conference summit in July. And just wonderful to see all of the energy and excitement and entrepreneurship in South Florida and Amman, very much a part of that ecosystem there. So a good place to be, right? To be running these
Yeah.
programs and supporting families. And Alexa, you told me before we started recording that you think of yourself as an Alexa for homeschooling families and others sort of choosing an unconventional path. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that and what the Collabo offers.
Well, I just have to play on the marketing, like, the Alexa Echo. I'm just gonna, you call on her when you need to know the weather, when you want to play a song, when you have a question, like it's everybody's personal assistant, right? So I'm just kind of capitalizing on the fact that my name is also Alexa. It gives a great connection. And honestly, it aligns because I really position myself as a thought partner, a collaborator, which is why, we're the Collabo, to parents and families. Just as I was navigating the homeschool space, it's a lot of information that is thrown at you at once. And it's like you're just kind of thrown into the deep end. So I always say, like, wouldn't it be great to have your personal Alexa here that you can call on who has the time to do some research for you, who has the time to, create a personalized learning plan for you, who has the time to sit and help you brainstorm ideas so that you feel confident moving on to your next step. And I think that parents having somebody or caretakers having somebody that they can lean on and talk to, brainstorm with in this sea of homeschooling information can be really helpful. Because as a provider, as I was looking through all the hundreds of curriculums, you need to know this, you need to know that. I can only imagine like a first time homeschooling parent feeling like I cannot do this and I don't know where to start. And that's where I come in, your personal Alexa.
Your personal Alexa for education. I think that's terrific. So, Florida is, of course, a national leader in terms of school choice policies, enabling a portion of education funding to follow families to their preferred learning environments. The school choice programs in Florida went universal a couple of years ago. So now every K to 12 student in the state is eligible for this funding, and that includes homeschooling students, microschool students, really any K to 12 student, and they're using these resources, using this funding in a variety of locations. including homeschooling co-ops, microschools, collaboratives, sort of a la carte programming, kind of picking and choosing what kinds of classes and activities are right for each child. So there's a lot to navigate. And you also serve as a choice navigator, sort of capital C, capital N, which is a specific role within the kind of school choice landscape in Florida. My understanding is that it's a voluntary service that families who want to have someone like you holding their hand as they navigate the various education options available to them can use some of their school choice funding to towards your services. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about that choice navigator role and how it fits into this larger school choice landscape.
Sure. So, as I was researching to figure out how I best can provide services, I came upon the Choice Navigator and I was like, oh, yes, I think that this is exactly how I want to support, or at least a piece of how I want to support homeschooling families. Because, as I mentioned before, it's a lot of information and it's a lot to have to navigate by yourself, and having somebody to help you make a choice, to help you decide, to help you put you on the right path, I think is very beneficial. I was just at the Homeschool Expo out here in Palm Beach County last Saturday, and just talking to parents and asking them, what's your homeschooling journey like? You'll get parents who are like, well, my child is 3 years old, so they're not really ready for it yet. But, I'm out here just searching information, or it's my first time homeschooling. And I just, I don't really know what to do. I have all this information being thrown at me, and I want to take advantage of XYZ, but I don't know where to go. Or, my child, is a middle schooler, or, getting ready to be in high school. And, I just want to be sure that I'm still providing them with the opportunities that are engaging them. And so we're getting a lot of parents who have a lot of questions in a space where there's supposedly there's answers, but really it's more so just more options being thrown at you as opposed to somebody who's like, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation and really talk about what your goals are, what your child's interests are, what is it that you're looking for, and let me provide you with a guidance on how to make the correct choice. So I think that this role is very beneficial because, as I've been repeating, you're going to be hit with a tidal wave of information coming into the homeschooling space. Even I've had friends reach out to me about sending in the letter of intent. That's the first step. And people have questions around, how do I even do that? Who do I reach out to? There's all these links and all these websites. So they tap onto me and be like, hey, Alexa, I need some support. Can you just tell me where to go? I need a clear, direct answer. Can you navigate that for me? And so I think, this role, as I mentioned, is really beneficial because it can give parents peace of mind, give them the confidence, which is really all you need to take the next step forward in taking ownership over your child's education. Because at the end of the day, that is a big choice. And it's a big responsibility. I tell parents, now you're the teacher, the principal, the superintendent, the lunch lady, the counselor, the gym teacher, the math teacher. Not now you're everything. Imagine having somebody like a co-pilot to come in and help you navigate that. So,
Yeah, and of course, there's lots of families, homeschooling families, microschooling families who are totally happy to go it alone and pave their own way. But so nice to know that resources like the Collabo exist for families who do want that partner, that co-pilot, particularly if they're new to this space and unsure where to begin. In some ways, as you were talking, Alexa, it reminds me of sort of just these education consultants that have long been around, particularly in sort of the pricey private school space, right?
mhm.
To tell parents, what are the different private school expectations for admissions and helping students get ready, and of course, something that most families aren't ever able to access or interested in. And of course, what you're doing through this Choice Navigator role is providing that same sort of consulting free of charge through the school choice programs in Florida, where again, families could access a Choice Navigator resource as they're planning their child's educational journey. So it really makes that kind of that premier education consulting role so much more accessible to families, particularly families in the unconventional education space who have not had any kind of consultant necessarily beforehand. And so, what are some of the things that you're asking families about or thinking about when families are telling you what they are looking for in their educational journey?
Yeah, and just to
Yeah,
reiterate what you said, that's why I really love Step Up,
yeah,
the Step Up Scholarship Program, because it really does cr remove barriers for the average family to have access to money to do the things that they need to do for their kids. Because otherwise, homeschooling can be very unfeasible.
yeah.
So I really think it's a wonderful program. But
And
anyways,
Step Up
back
for
to your,
Students, just for those who don't know, that
oh
is sort of the
yes,
administrator of the school choice programs in Florida. Yeah.
yes. Thanks for clarifying that.
Well, we're so
Um,
used to all of this lingo and
right.
language, but sometimes it's important to remember that others might not know what we're
Yes.
talking about. So yeah, they're the school choice administrator.
So to go back to your question on like what I ask parents or what the
Mm,
process is, honestly, I lean right on back to my special education experience because ideally what I'm creating for a family is a personalized education plan. You know, unless they just have questions, I direct them to, where they need to go and if that's all they need. But I think that if you want to be sure you maintain and sustain the correct path that you want to be on. The best thing to do is to create a plan, right? Create options and create resources. So I always ask people, the first thing I ask, where are you at on your homeschool journey? How long have you been doing this? What are your successes? What are some of your challenges? What are your hopes? What are your goals? Why are you doing this? Then you get a full context of who the parent is. Then I move over to the kid if they're old enough to speak for themselves. What do you like to do? What do you hope for yourself? What are your goals? What are your interests? Do you like these different types of things? And even speaking to the kids at the homeschool expo, it's so amazing, the types of information that you'll just receive from a child that showcases how they learn, what they're interested in, and gives you pathways to providing resources to even support them or to support the parents to support the child. So I basically take it like run it like an IEP meeting, kind of. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the goals? What are the baseline data if we have any? And then how can we make decisions to keep you on that track? So that's how I
mm.
roll through it.
Love that. And what are you hearing from parents? Are they looking for um, sort of a homeschooling experience where they just need help with curriculum and maybe an understanding of what sort of activities are in their communities? Or are you finding that many of the families are looking to enroll their kids in a micro school for homeschoolers, either part-time or full-time? What are you hearing parents are looking for?
Honestly, it's a mix of both. I spoke to a lot of parents over the weekend who were looking for a micro school for a few days out of the week
Mm,
to drop their kids off at.
yeah.
And there was plenty of them in the homeschool expo space that they could navigate or talk to, or I even gave reference to some that I think would be beneficial for them. So a lot of parents are looking for like a drop-off program of some sort
Yeah.
to put their kids in. And some are looking for curriculum. Some are like, well, I've
Okay.
tried this curriculum and it was good, but now I don't really like it and I'm looking for something else. Or some say, well, I kind of got it down packed, but I'm not sure how to keep engaging my child. I'm not sure how do I create that portfolio at the end of the year to make sure that, we're on track. So those that is what has been picking up for me in my conversations. And some are just totally like, listen, Alexa, I'm lost and I don't know where to start and I need some help. So can you just
Yeah.
help me take all this in my brain and help me find a clear path for my decision? Because that's the edge of the I'm trying to think of the metaphor, but like the pro and con of the freedom of homeschooling. Freedom has a lot of pros and cons. The pros, you have the choice to do whatever it is that you want to do. But the con is you have the choice to do whatever it is that you want to do. And you have to decide, and that's the decision. Oh, do I have confidence in the choice that I'm about to make? And so that's a dichotomy that I was balancing or I have been balancing to speaking with parents.
Yeah, and one of the things that I often talk about is that this would be true in traditional education models and in non-traditional models is you're not locked in. This doesn't have to be a 13-year commitment, right? So if it's not working, you can always try something else. And I would imagine when you have those conversations with families, it might take a little bit of the pressure off. Like, oh, okay, I can see if this works. We can try homeschooling for now. And if it's not working or we want something else later, we can do that too. And you're, of course, there to hold their hand through that process. Do you find
Yes.
that to be something that you talk about with families?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, when you're choosing this alternative route to education, the parents and the families and those who are taking on that responsibility have to begin to deconstruct school for themselves because they most likely went through the traditional system. So, not locking in for 3 years to commit to something is a big change because you realize that, oh, I do have the freedom and the choice to make the change, but all your life you've been told it has to be XYZ. So it's a lot of conversation around like a growth mindset. You can make a different choice. The choose, you don't have to hit every single learning target throughout the year. Choose 3 to 5 goals that cover all of them, and then implement different learning activities that can help your child reach that goal. So a lot of parents do have to like deconstruct, what is school? What does this mean now? Does it have to look like it did traditional school, or can I do something else with it? And that I think is a process that is helpful to talk to somebody about, or find tools and resources to help you support you in deconstructing what school looks like, or what learning, rather, take out school, what learning looks like in the household.
Yeah. So you started the Collabo in 2020, initially part of kind of a COVID community, primarily for teachers, and then it's evolved into supporting homeschooling families and others choosing unconventional models. What is your perspective on the momentum, sort of the interest and popularity in homeschooling and unconventional education since you've been in this space, and where do you see that momentum going?
Whew. Well, Carrie, I must say it's there are big eyes watching micro schools. And there, I have had conversations with superintendents who have their eyes on the micro schooling movement. So it's really interesting, like being in the space and seeing like all these people interested in homeschooling, micro schooling, and I love it because I'm like, yes, take ownership, take control of your children's education. Let's get back to maybe the one room schoolhouse or the community schooling. Like there was power in that. And as a community, we can come together to make it work for our community. So it's like, I think it's an amazing model. And then to also be on the other side and see, well, there are major districts, who are looking to the micro school model. What does it look like to integrate micro schooling into a major district? And how do traditional schools shift? I really feel like those of us who are on this journey right now are pioneers to what education will eventually return back to,
Yeah,
so it's a
that's
cycle, and I think we're part of a group of pioneers who are making waves, charting new territory, and I think that kids are craving community, and I've heard this from a couple of young people. Kids are craving the community, but they're scared to go to school.
hmm.
If you're scared to go to school, you're not going to be able to learn. Then you're not going to do well, which is going to still have impact on your emotional capacity within the world. So, like, even kids are feeling this like, I don't feel seen at my school. I don't feel like I belong at my school. I don't feel like I'm learning at my school. Maybe I wouldn't mind a smaller group of people to learn with. So, I feel like there's this like energy that is like, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, pulsating right now.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to be a small piece in this big puzzle, to be honest. I have a lot of hope for where this is going to go. And I really feel like Florida, got to put on for my state. We don't get a lot of people to put on for Florida, but I feel like Florida is, the people out here are really trying to do the right thing for the kids in
I
this
com
space.
I completely agree. I mean, Florida is doing Florida founders like you, not the state, it's the people,
Yeah.
education entrepreneurs like you who really are building these new educational models and helping families to access them in really innovative ways. So it's exciting to see. So it sounds like you think this homeschooling and unconventional education space will continue to grow outside of the system, but
Yeah.
then you're also saying that even within schools and school systems, the work
Hmm.
that you and others are doing is informing their work and getting them interested in how to bring what you're doing into the system. So that will be exciting to watch. And to see that you have that influence in the conventional schooling settings to hopefully make improvements there as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I want to begin to wrap up, Alexa, and I'd love to ask first, what advice do you have for other education entrepreneurs, maybe former public school teachers, current public school teachers, parents, others who are thinking about launching something new and different? What advice do you have for them?
Well, for my teachers who are still in the traditional space, I really hope that teachers begin to feel empowered. Whether you decide to step out or remain in the space, we have to remember that teachers are like the bloodline of the school, whether the heart of the school. They keep it pumping, they keep it running. So really, you have a lot more power than what you may feel like you do.
Mm,
So I hope that teachers find ways to not let the pressures of the system um rain on their parade and deplete them of their creativity because
mm,
I see it drain out of people. It was beginning to be drained out of me, you know. So I hope that there's by watching entrepreneurs are getting strategies and resources that you can use in your classroom, using these tactics of community building, asset mapping can help you, create the space that you need to in your school. Now, for people who want to be entrepreneurs, I'm
mm.
still a baby in this. So my piece of advice would to be just keep going. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to nobody when I'm sending out my newsletters or posting or and then all of a sudden somebody comes to an event that I have based off my newsletter, right?
Mm,
So it's like just keep going. If you have a vision, I believe that if a vision is placed inside your heart, it's for you to make come to true. And that's what I tell myself every day. There's ups and downs, lefts and rights, but every baby step leads you to the big step that, helps you realize part of your vision.
mm,
So that's what I have to say to entrepreneurs, like, and build a community because I'm definitely not doing this alone. I have people that I speak with every single Monday for accountability. I have people who pour into me when I'm feeling like I'm not doing the right things or feeling down, and I pour right back into them as well. And I think that's really important to have a great community of people around you so you can keep your vision. Um, and the last thing to say to everybody is collaboration is key. And that's
mm,
why, not to plug the Collabo again, but collaboration is key. One business, one person doesn't have to do it all. We can all use our strengths to continue to push forward this movement and to continue on with the mission. So find ways to collaborate with one another. Um, Whether you're an entrepreneur, collaborate. That's how we're going to get people to know. That's how we're going to get people talking and learning. So yeah, and for the parents, if you need a little bit of help, reach out to me.
Yeah, so that was my final question for you then, Alexa, is how can parents or other teachers find you, connect with you, gain additional insight and wisdom?
Yes, for sure. So I have a pretty great presence on Instagram. So if people want to follow me there, it's at underscore the Collabo. On Facebook, it's the Collabo. Or I don't know, should I say my email because I'm happy to.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Email me, Alexa at bcollabo.com. That's BECOLLABO.com. And just schedule a time with me. Sign up for the newsletter. I have all those links everywhere. And I'm very communicative. So if you want to sign up for a quick consultation just to check in, schedule it, put it on my calendar. I'll be there.
Amazing. Well, I hope folks will take you up on that offer, and I look forward to continuing to keep in touch with you and following your progress and impact in Florida and beyond. Alexa Achille, thank you so much for being on the Liberated podcast.
Yes, thank you.